In this week's drive, we see another nation join the A1 family. Put a year's effort into the Indy wall. Find we can't race and film at the same time. And crown an unlikely champion. All this and more in this week's Drive. Portugal has become the first country in continental Europe to unveil its car for the A1 Grand Prix series, dubbed the World Cup of Motor Racing. The series was devised by Sheikh Maktoum, and the team's drivers, Pedro Lamy, Alvaro Parente and João Urbano, have the backing of Portugal's top sporting hero, soccer star Luís Figo, and Manchester United's assistant manager, Carlos Queiroz. In A1, all the drivers have identical cars and compete for their countries. The Portuguese entry was unveiled in the country's national colours, and Portugal has joined Britain, South Africa, China, Australia, Mexico, Pakistan and Lebanon in launching their cars, with others expected to follow soon. The Portuguese international was among the high-profile seat holders announced in the early stages of A1 Grand Prix, adding a soccer dimension to the series. You see, there's the intriguing prospect of Figo's Madrid teammate Ronaldo heading up the Brazilian A1 Grand Prix team and going head-to-head with Figo's team when the series kicks off in September.
The flag and the colors and our country means a lot for us. I think for me it's like I'm really honored and proud to represent my country, not only in Portugal but out of Portugal too.
I believe that this project is not only about motor racing fans, and as soon people start to have the opportunity alive or through the television to feel and hear the sound of a Portuguese car, that attraction will be something that will touch the majority of the people.
A great honor to be representing Portugal, my country. I'm really pleased to drive a car that Figo and Carlos Queiroz will help to make the team bigger. So I'm really happy to be together with them in this project. To drive these cars is great. I mean, the last years I have been driving touring cars, GT cars. They are much heavier, slower on the corners, and this car is lighter, more powerful. So I was really pleased to drive at Silverstone, and hopefully here it's good again.
The Portuguese Circuit of Estoril will host the third of the 12-race series, which starts on September the 25th at Brands Hatch. "33 drivers started the 89th Indianapolis 500, and attention was focused on 23-year-old female Indy 500 rookie Danica Patrick, starting an impressive fourth. Bruno Junqueira and AJ Foyt IV made contact early in the race. Foyt dropped down and touched wheels with Junqueira and sent him into the wall. American Foyt was 5 laps behind the leaders but completed only 12 more before retiring. Moments later, Richie Hearn cut towards the inside and collided with New Zealand's Scott Dixon. The two drivers escaped with only minor injuries, but their respective days were done after just 114 laps. Sam Hornish Jr. had taken the lead on the first lap and held it for 77.
There you see him out of Auckland, New Zealand, 24 years of age.
But on lap 147, Hornish tried to avoid hitting another car and hit the outside wall. It's the third time in 6 starts that Hornish has crashed in Indianapolis, and he still hasn't completed 200 laps on the 2.5-mile oval circuit. With the caution from Hornish's accident about to be lifted, Patrick was revving her engine to take green when her number 16 car suddenly swerved to the right. She collided with Thomas Enger and sent Thomas Scheckter spinning into the wall, but she was able to pit quickly and get her car back on the track.
She's wiggling already, and Thomas, boy, is he getting lucky on that? Well, maybe not so. But she was doing the right thing in the sense that she wanted to get a jump on Scott Sharp. She had moved herself all the way up to...
On lap 186, Kosuke Matsuura broke a wheel. Just before the caution was called, Dan Weldon slipped ahead of Patrick. But on the restart, 4 laps later, Patrick quickly took the inside line and grabbed the lead.
Danica Patrick has moved out into the front. It is Danica Patrick leading with Dan Weldon sitting in second. So the whole...
With 6 laps remaining and with the caution lifted, Weldon slipped out from Patrick's wake to regain the lead. From there on in, Weldon easily held on to win.
And there he goes.
the UK.
Sebastien Bourdais caused a late caution and Weldon crossed the line under yellow and checkered flags. The first British driver to win the race since Graham Hill in 1966. Patrick's fourth-place finish is the highest ever by a woman, topping the 9th place by Janet Guthrie in 1978. Vitor Meira and Brian Herter both passed Patrick and finished second and third. The famous Brno track hosted the 4th round of the German Touring Car Championship, with Gary Paffett hoping to win from pole position. But a jump start from the Englishman ruined his race, and initially it was ex-Formula One driver Hans-Harald Frentzen who led the field around the 5.4-kilometre circuit. In the competitive world of DTM, contact is part of the sport, and Pierre Caffer got involved in Marcel Fassler and Bernd Schneider's coming together on the opening lap. Paffett was given a stop-go penalty for jumping the start, but he recovered well to take 4th place. Tyre failure on lap 2 meant an extra pit stop for double world champion Mika Hakkinen, and he struggled home in 13th place. Up among the leaders, reigning DTM champion Matthias Ekström's Audi team did their job in the pits on lap 13 to perfection, getting the Swedish driver back in the race after just 4.6 seconds. It was enough for Ekström to rejoin in front of Frentzen and Denmark's Tom Christensen. Halfway through the 30-lap race, Christensen fought his way past Frentzen's Opel and began to close on teammate Ekström. But there was still plenty of action around the track, with the Mercedes of Alexandros Margaritis and Fassler's Opel involved in an accident which forced the Greek driver out of the race. Fassler hardly profited though, coming home 15th out of 17 starters. Ekström held off Christensen by just 0.28 of a second to win his first race of the season, his second in a row at Brno, and take the top spot in the drivers' standings. Frentzen came home in 3rd place, 25 seconds behind, to cheer up his Opel team. Ekström now leads the Drivers' Championship with 27 points, 2 ahead of Paffett, with Christensen moving into 3rd place on 22 points ahead of Frenchman Jean Alesi. Round 5 of the 11-event DTM series takes place at Oschersleben in Germany. It was to be a long day in North Carolina. The race lasted 5 hours and 13 minutes, had 37 lead changes amongst 21 different drivers, and saw a record 22 caution flags over 103 laps. After a few cautions for minor crashes, this one, involving Jimmy Spencer, Mike Skinner and Scott Riggs, brought out the yellow on lap 98 and ended the day for Spencer and Skinner, but Riggs finished 19th. On lap 139, Johnny Sauter's blown and shredded right front tyre brought out another caution. It inflicted severe damage on his car as his day came to an end. On lap 162, but running 135 laps down on the leaders, it was Kurt Busch who ran into the wall again. His car sustained some damage, but not enough to end his day, and he would finish 43rd and last. Just a little more than halfway into the race, on lap 216, Casey Mears got into the wall, and then his car got into the path of Sterling Marlin. Mears was able to continue the longest race on the NASCAR schedule, but Marlin was not.
And remember, why Sterling Marlin was back that far was that penalty he had for not reducing his speed on pit road.
With just 22 of the 400 laps to go, Brian Vickers ruined his shot at his first career victory when he caused an accident that collected Jeff Gordon, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin and Kevin Harvick. Bobby Labonte had started at the back of the grid after his team had fitted a new gearbox, but had climbed to 2nd place. The final caution came out when Joe Nemechek crashed into the wall while leading with 10 laps to go. NASCAR stopped the race to clean the track, and racing resumed 10 minutes later with Labonte in the lead with 5 laps to go. But Jimmy Johnson had worked his way back to 4th when the race restarted after the final caution. Labonte was trying to end a 47-race winless streak on the 10-year anniversary of his first career victory. Johnson got ahead on the final lap and edged ahead to grab his 2nd victory of the season. Labonte, off to a horrid start this season, kicked his car in disgust as he climbed out of it. There was to be a changing of the guard in the Champ Car Series in Wisconsin. Ryan Hunter-Ray, who started from pole and led every lap of this race last year, crashed on the 6th lap. He was taken to a hospital after complaining of neck pain, but a CAT scan and other tests were negative. Paul Tracy made an outside pass on this year's pole starter Jimmy Vasser on the 19th of 221 laps. Vasser fought hard to hold him off, and the two drove side by side for more than half a lap before Tracy finally pulled ahead. As the laps wound down on the race, cut 4 laps short by a time limit imposed by live TV broadcast, tenacious second-year driver AJ Allmendinger hung on to Canadian-born Tracy, cutting his lead at times to less than 5 car lengths. Debris on the track brought out the final caution on lap 210 and bunched the field, giving Allmendinger one last chance to chase down the leader. Each of the cars starts the race with 1 minute of extra turbocharged pressure, known as push-to-pass power. The drivers push a button on the steering wheel to get bursts of about 50 extra horsepower until the minute is gone. Preparing for the final restart, Tracy had 19 seconds left and Allmendinger none. That was the difference, as Tracy used up 9 seconds of push-to-pass and pulled away, beating Allmendinger to the finish line by nearly half the straight. It was Tracy's first win since Vancouver last July and the 29th of his career, tying him for 7th in the Champ Car's winners list. A different type of racing now as we head off the coast of Ayrshire in Scotland for the Honda Formula 4-Stroke Championship. A fleet of 12 225 horsepower boats took to the clear water for the opening round of the season, with Team Ray Marine starting from pole position. A fast getaway is essential. Every second counts once the course stewards give the order to begin racing, so clear communication between the two-man crew is essential. Team Ray Marine driver Shelley Jory and her navigator Libby Keir maintained the inside line into the first turn, and they would take full advantage of the clear water ahead. The boats in their wake would not find the going quite so easy, though, and the Team Ray Marine were able to build a healthy lead at the head of the fleet. .150 horsepower champions Paul and Stella Charman were making their debut in the 225 horsepower class. The husband and wife team were third at the start of lap 2, but they hit the wake of second-placed Fatboy Racing on the way into a turn and capsized. Stella was taken to hospital with an ankle injury. Further along the course, the battle for first place continued, with Fatboy Racing eating into Ray Marine's lead. Ray Marine driver Jory finished third in last year's championship series, a lack of stamina costing her dear as she failed to hold on to the lead in several races. But hours spent in the gym paid off as Jory kept a firm grip on first place ahead of Fatboy Racing. AccuCard followed in third place, but they were unable to make a further impact. Fatboy Racing kept chasing right up to the final turn, but time was not on their side, and Ray Marine held on to win. It was a sweet victory for Libby Keir, winning her powerboat debut on home waters. AccuCard held on to third place.
My arms really hurt. In fact, I think it was on lap 4. She said, come on. I said, I'm really tired, Libby. She said, I don't want to hear that. and I knew Rob was behind me. I knew Rob Lister and Will Knocker in Fatboy Racing. And I said to Libby, I said, they will fight to the end. And they did.
Jory and Keir will be hoping to steer Ray Marine to a second consecutive victory when the season continues with the Grand Prix of the Isle of Man later this month. Still on the water, thousands of spectators lined the banks of the Arade River for the opening round of the 2005 Formula 1 powerboat season, the 7th annual Grand Prix of Portugal. 8 times world champion Guido Capellini started from pole position, with reigning champion Scott Gilman on his right-hand side in second place. Capellini made the perfect start and held his lead around the first corner of the circuit. The Italian edged ahead in his Tamoil powerboat, although Gilman hung on grimly to second place, hoping for an opportunity to pass his arch-rival. Gilman matched the race leader for speed down the straights, but Capellini maintained the inside line whenever the American threatened to make a pass. The American tried his luck on the outside line of the circuit on the 48th lap of 55 and outpaced Capellini into the corner to grab the lead. Gilman was in control and looked good to make a victorious start to his title defence. However, his progress was slowed when a flooded boat brought out the yellow flag and the field was slowed down and bunched up. Disaster then struck as his Emirates boat's engine took on water, and as Gilman lost pace, Capellini surged back into the lead with the finish line looming. Capellini duly finished in first place for his 6th victory in the Grand Prix of Portugal. The only other man to win on the Arade River is Gilman, who triumphed in 2004, but he had to be content with 2nd place this time around. Capellini's compatriot, Fabio Comparato, won a thrilling battle for 3rd place, denying Frenchman Felipe Desertene and Leith Faroen of Saudi Arabia a place on the podium. The season continues in early July with the first of 2005's 2 Italian Grand Prix. Italian Loris Capirossi powered his Italian Ducati into an early lead in the Italian Grand Prix at Mugello from 6th place on the grid. It didn't last long. Fellow Italian multiple world champion Valentino Rossi took less than a lap to take the top position that he has just about made his own this season. He was full of confidence after breaking the qualifying lap record. Sete Gibernau, 2nd on the grid and keen to make amends after a less than satisfactory season, began to push hard, only to overcook the front end and crash after 5 laps. That left the front-runners of Rossi, Max Biaggi and Marco Melandri, all Italians racing at home, to fight out amongst themselves. With 13 laps to go, Melandri, Rossi's nearest championship rival, took the lead from the defending champion, only for Rossi to reclaim it almost immediately. Then it was Biaggi's turn to challenge. He moved from 3rd into 2nd after Melandri drifted wide and then charged up on the inside of Rossi to lead the race, making his best showing of the year. With 2 laps to go, Rossi retook the lead and held on for his 4th victory at the Italian Grand Prix, leading an Italian sweep of the top 4 positions. He completed the 23 laps just 0.3 of a second ahead of Biaggi and 4 seconds ahead of Capirossi, who was 3rd, each in their best finishes of the season. Melandri finished 4th, narrowly missing out on the final podium position.
I did a great fight before with Melandri and after with Biaggi. Was a difficult race, a high-level race, good rhythm to the end. 3 laps to go, or 2, I don't remember. I make my attack and I make 2 very good lap a little bit faster and this possible win.
Rossi now leads the defence of his title comfortably, and Gibernau's threat has dwindled into obscurity. Class newcomer Melandri's consistency is more impressive, but there's a long season ahead. Reigning world champion Daniel Pedrosa gave Honda their first 250cc win at Mugello since 1997, his 3rd victory of the season. Australian Casey Stoner took the early lead and held it until lap 14, when Jorge Lorenzo passed him, only to be beaten by Pedrosa a few laps later, when a mid-corner mistake by Alex De Angelis distracted the leaders. Lorenzo took 2nd ahead of De Angelis, while Stoner had to settle for 4th. Pedrosa's defence of his title looks safe at this early stage, but the battles for 2nd and 4th could go either way in the races, months and countries to come. On lap 12 of the 125 race, Marco Simoncelli crashed, leaving Hector Faubel as the sole Aprilia rider against KTM riders Mika Kallio and Gabor Talmaxi and Honda's Thomas Luthi. But on the last corner of the last lap, Kallio crashed and took Faubel with him. That allowed Hungarian Talmaxi to take his maiden Grand Prix win from Luthi. Spaniard Joan Olive inherited 3rd, his best finish in 3 years. Luthi jumps to the top of the standings, but as usual, the 125cc class championship is close. The next race is in Spain, number 6 of 17 rounds. Race 1 of the British Motocross Grand Prix didn't start terribly well for Frenchman and championship contender Michael Pichon. Predictably, it was raining and he stalled on the first corner and did well to fight back to finish 13th. In the lead was world champion and title leader Stefan Everts ahead of fellow Belgian Ken De Dicker. No sooner had Everts powered away than De Dicker was under threat from yet another Belgian, fast-charging Steve Ramon. Also charging hard were Joshua Coppens and Ben Townley, both from New Zealand, and it wasn't long before they joined De Dicker. And while they fought it out, Everts cruised to yet another race victory. With a crowd of around 35,000 attending the British event, this race stands out as a highlight of the season so far. The Matcham circuit was close to the best track on the calendar, with a technical layout, and despite a lot of rain over the weekend, the track remained in good condition. Race 2, different race, same result. There was another bottleneck at the first corner and Everts moved to the front, ahead of yet another Belgian, former multiple world champion Joel Smets on the yellow Suzuki number 3 and the Kiwi Coppins on Honda number 5. Everts, the series leader and 8 times world champion, completed his first double moto haul since the French Grand Prix last June, claiming his 5th victory of the season and the 84th win of his career. And so the top 3 remained, until Smets overdid things on a corner and lost the front end. That left Townley and Coppins free to battle for second place. Behind them, Everts' championship rival Pichon was making up for a disappointing first race by scything through the field. But Townley, hoping to improve on his 3rd place in race 1 with a 2nd in race 2, crashed out of a podium position after landing badly off the jump. That handed Coppins 2nd place, 11 seconds ahead of Smets. Everts ran a flawless race and crossed the line for a 2nd victory of the day, 33 seconds ahead of Coppins. Nuremberg in Germany hosted the penultimate Night of the Jumps International Freestyle Motocross Federation event of the season. With a sellout crowd cheering them on, 15 of the world's leading freestyle motocross riders kick-started the competition. But before the main event got underway, the field warmed up with a high jump contest. Gary Taylor and Chris Brock both leapt over the bar set at 7 metres. And with their rivals failing to clear that mark, the 2 Britons shared 1st place. 3rd place went to Belgian Jimmy Verberg, who had failed to clear 6.5 metres. With the spectators suitably warmed up, the night of the jumps began. Fresh from his 1st place in the high jump, Gary Taylor took 5th with 214 points, capping his run with a cliffhanger. Sweden's Fredrik Johansson scored 220 points and finished 4th, with a stripper to saran wrap manoeuvre as the highlight of his performance. Chris Brock was looking for another win, and the Briton varied his tricks. His difficult McMets grabbed the crowd's attention. Brock finished his run in style with an Indian air to Indian air, but only managed 3rd place with 226 points. The runners-up spot went to Nick Franklin, who finished with 262 points. Franklin showed no signs of fear as he performed a holy grab, but the New Zealander saved the best for last, landing a one-handed backflip in competition for the first time in his career. But despite the high level of competition, standings leader Matt Rabot blew away the opposition. Again. The Swiss stretched every inch of his frame and can't have been far from the arena roof as he started his run with a stripper. Rabot defied gravity with an excellent tsunami, but his heel kicker backflip was the best trick of the run and the event. His final score was a chart-topping 300. The crowd rose as one to give a standing ovation, but Rabot was modest in victory and heaped praise on the event's organisers.
Yes, I'm very happy about the win, and I would like to thank the whole IFMXF crew. They did a very good job, very professional. The conditions and the track today were really, really good. Thank you to everybody.
Rabot moved to the top of the world standings and clinched the Night of the Jumps Championship with this win. He can afford to take it easy when the season reaches its conclusion in Cologne in Germany. So whether you're flying on water, flying over mud, or just flying into the pits, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.